Today's Talk About It Tuesday question is, I'm recently married and discovered that my spouse and I have totally different ideas about spending, saving, and investing. I'm afraid that it's going to be a major problem in our relationship. Do you have any advice on how to get us on the same page? Ooh, this is a big one. Well, first of all, let's say finances is one of the major causes of disputes in a marriage and can lead to divorce. So it is good that the person is addressing it early. I know people who have totally different ideas than their spouse. Their spouse says, we only live once and you can't take it with you, so I want to spend it all. Why should I make the money and not enjoy it? While their idea is we're going to live a long time and we may not be making the same type of money in the future. So let's put some money away, enjoy a little bit, but put money away for when we get old. And they clash all the time. This is a discussion you should have had with your spouse prior to marriage. You need to understand their philosophy on spending, on saving, on investing, on how and when bills are paid, the idea about an emergency fund, insurance, life insurance, all these things should be discussed prior to marriage. But we're past that now. So how do you get on the same page? The first thing is that it requires open communication about how you feel and what you see as a conflict in the way you guys plan financially. So it's easy to start with an examination of income and expenses, right? So what is the budget? What are our new combined monthly expenses? And when I say combined, joint, you both live together, right? You both eat food, you both have utilities. These are communal or joint expenses. So address that first. You might decide that the joint expenses are covered jointly, meaning that there's a pot of money that's put towards that, and then individual expenses are handled individually from what is left over. You might decide that it works better for you that you lump all expenses, but maybe you put a cap on what the individual expenses are, right? So that it fits within the budget. But you have to have that discussion and play to each other's strengths. If one person is good at making sure people stay in the budget, they should be in charge of that. If one person is good at paying the bills on time, one person should be in charge of that. But there should be openness and accountability so that the other person knows exactly when and how the bills are paid and has access to all the accounts. And if they say, hey, what happened to this? You should be accountable to them, right? So there's openness, there's accountability, but playing to each other's strengths instead of saying, you pay this bill, I pay this bill. And then you're like, oh, you didn't pay that bill. No, one person can handle it all if that's their strength. You should decide what an emergency is and how much you would need to have an emergency fund. Before you even think about investing jointly, there needs to be an emergency fund set aside. But each of you need to decide what it is and how much should be in there. What is the philosophy and the goals that each of you have on saving and investing? If either of you are not knowledgeable, the other one needs to be caught up to speed so they feel comfortable in regards to why you're investing and what you're investing in. And that deals with, the emotional risk tolerance too. Maybe one person is not comfortable taking certain risks on things that another is. So there has to be, again, open communication, but a level of education. If you come to an impasse on this, I advise that not only do the two of you take classes together to understand investing and savings, but that you also seek the advice of a financial advisor so that they can sit down with the two of you and explain the best routes that you can take based on your joint goals. Excuse me. you should also look at life insurance. It is important that both of you are covered and that there's an appropriate amount of coverage based on whether or not you have children, if one is a bigger income provider than the other, so that that income is not totally lost for a period of time if that spouse, should pass away. Debt is a big issue. Hopefully, neither party came into the marriage with debt. If you have debt prior to marriage, it is my suggestion you take care of that before the marriage and come into this thing with a clean slate. If one or more of the two of you have debt, then the two of you need to decide, because it's ultimately going to hurt the marriage, hurt the marriage financially either way, whether you leave it to that person to handle or you decide to do it jointly. But you need to come up with a plan to eliminate debt, and then as you move forward, be judicious and decide how you're going to handle debt, because there'll be major purchases. You'll probably buy a home, you'll probably buy a car, you'll probably have to finance some other big expense. So what is the plan for acquiring new debt, and how is it going to be approached? So that's important. Those are the major things, but it's really, like I said, getting on the same page and both agreeing to compromise sometimes and stick to whatever the new plan is. So hopefully those things are helpful, because no matter what you do, whatever either party does is going to affect the other. So, make sure you're on the same page, because it can really become problematic down the road. I'd like to hear your thoughts and your suggestions. Please comment. Let me know what you think. Maybe you have some ideas on, how this couple can get on the same page. Maybe you were in the same boat and you can give them some advice on how to get on the same page. But you know how the algorithms work. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Keep the questions coming, and I'll see you next Tuesday.